Oscar Piastri started from pole position. Just behind him in second was Max Verstappen. In third, another McLaren, Lando Norris. McLaren had both cars exactly where they wanted them. The pace was strong, the control was clear. It looked like the beginning of a dominant victory. And then, lap 7 happened. A collision between Nico Hülkenberg and Pierre Gasly brought out the safety car. 50 laps still remained. The timing could not have been more perfect for teams planning their first pit stop. The FIA had enforced a 25-lap limit on tire stints for safety reasons. That meant this safety car window was ideal. Pit now, lose minimal track position, reset the race. It was an opportunity too good to ignore. Red Bull reacted instantly. Verstappen was called in from second place. Mercedes responded, bringing in George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Ferrari followed suit with Charles Leclerc. Up and down the pit lane, every team made their move. Every team except McLaren. Piastri stayed out. Norris stayed out. McLaren chose to gamble. They believed their pace was strong enough to overcome a later stop. They wanted strategic flexibility for the final stages of the race. On paper, it made sense, but flexibility means little when your rivals have already taken fresh tires under a safety car. Norris understood the risk immediately. Over the radio, he questioned the call. We should have just followed him in. His engineer tried to defend the strategy. Red Bull, he argued, had limited options now. McLaren would have more freedom later. But Norris had seen the bigger picture. The race had just tilted. When the green flag returned, Piastri pushed hard. He delivered competitive lap times, trying to build a gap large enough to protect the strategy. But the numbers told a different story. Even after his second stop, Piastri rejoined only 10 seconds ahead of Verstappen. 10 seconds was never going to be enough. McLaren attempted to correct the mistake with another stop, but by then, the momentum was gone. Verstappen moved to the front and took control with the calm confidence of a driver who knew the race had fallen into his hands. He managed his tires, he controlled the pace, he built the gap. By the checkered flag, he was more than 12 seconds clear. It looked dominant, but it should never have been possible. Piastri had the speed all weekend. He had topped sessions. He had led the race. But pure pace cannot undo a strategic error at the most critical moment. For Norris, the afternoon became even more difficult. Before his pit stop, he experienced a wild moment at turn 14 that caused damage to his car. After rejoining, he found himself down in fifth behind Carlos Sainz Jr. and Antonelli's Mercedes. The closing laps turned into frustration. Norris sat close enough to use DRS on the main straight, but never quite close enough to pass. Only when Antonelli ran wide at turn 10 with 2 laps remaining did Norris finally slip through, securing 4th place. 2 extra points, a small recovery, but far from what McLaren needed. When Piastri crossed the finish line, his radio message said everything. "I don't have any words." On broadcast, he was described as furious, and with good reason. A race he had controlled from the start had slipped away because of a single decision. Later, speaking to the media, he stayed composed. He admitted, "We didn't get it right tonight. I drove the best race that I could. I tried my best. It just wasn't to be." When asked about the safety car decision, his response was even more telling. In hindsight, it was pretty obvious what we should have done. Not complicated, not debatable, obvious. That word carried weight. This was not a 50-50 gamble. It was a clear mistake, and everyone in the paddock knew it. Inside the McLaren garage, the mood was heavy. Team CEO Zak Brown usually speaks immediately after races. This time, he declined interviews until after the podium ceremony. From the pit lane, reporters described the team as shell-shocked. This wasn't ordinary disappointment. This was a self-inflicted wound, one that could shape the championship fight. The numbers are unforgiving. McLaren had the speed to control the front row. At minimum, they should have secured first and third. Instead, they finished second and fourth. Verstappen walked away with maximum points, and now the championship standings show him just 12 points behind. In August, the championship gap stood at 104 points. It felt unassailable. Now it's 12. Max Verstappen has dragged himself back into the fight, race by race, and each McLaren mistake has quietly helped him close the distance. For Oscar Piastri, the damage runs deeper. He now trails Lando Norris by 16 points and sits 4 behind Verstappen. In the space of a single evening, he fell from leading the Grand Prix to 3rd in the championship standings. His title hopes are not mathematically over, but they are slipping away. And that is what makes this so painful. Piastri did not make a mistake. He delivered a flawless weekend. He topped sessions, he controlled the race, he did everything a championship contender is supposed to do. His team let him down. It is the second weekend in a row that McLaren has had to apologize to its drivers. Just 7 days earlier in Las Vegas Grand Prix, both cars were disqualified after the race due to illegal skid block wear. Team principal Andrea Stella personally apologized. 1 week later, another costly error, and this one may hurt even more. The pattern is worrying. McLaren has built arguably the fastest car on the grid. They have 2 drivers capable of winning on any given Sunday, but when the pressure rises, their operational execution has faltered. Strategy calls, split-second decisions, moments that define championships. The choice to leave both cars out under the safety car will be analyzed for years. Some will argue McLaren wanted fairness, keeping both drivers on the same strategy. Others will point out a simple truth. Red Bull would never hesitate in that situation. When the safety car was deployed, Verstappen's engineer made the call instantly. No debate, no delay, no attempt to outthink the obvious. McLaren tried to be clever, and they paid for it. What makes the error even harder to accept is what followed. Nothing. There were no further incidents, no second safety car, no chaos to rescue the gamble. The race ran clean to the finish. Verstappen's early stop gave him track position and fresher tires, and he never looked back. The championship now heads to the final round in Abu Dhabi, with 3 drivers still in contention. Norris leads with 408 points. Verstappen follows with 396. Piastri sits on 392. The equation is simple. If Norris finishes 3rd,